Hello everybody and welcome to another episode. In today's episode I'm going to show you how to completely replace the timing belt kit from any Renault, Nissan or Dacia with the engine 1.5 or 1.9 Dci. Today I'm working on this Renault Clio 2 from the year 2007, and on this vehicle I'll have to replace the complete kit of timing belt and also the tensioner and the serpentine belt from this vehicle. So the first thing which you have to do on this vehicle to start this kind of job is to lift the car up and support the engine with a jack stand. And after that, you have to remove the engine mounting support, which is mounted right here on the right side of the vehicle. And also you have to remove the right front wheel and the undercarriage, which is mounted around it. And also you have to remove the serpentine belt and the serpentine belt tensioner itself with the alternator out from the vehicle. Right here I have all the parts which I'm going to install back on the vehicle. This one from right here is the brand new coolant which I'm going to put back into the engine. This is green coolant made for Renault. Also right here I have the brand new serpentine belt made by Continental. Right here I have one bolt which I'm going to replace, and also right here I have the serpentine belt tensioner made by Eno. Before starting this kind of job, you'll need these tools to put the engine into the top dead center, and as you can see, it's right here for Renault 1.5 and 1.9 Dci. Right here, as you can see, I have the brand new water pump made by Hepo for this kind of vehicle, and also it came in the kit with a brand new gasket, which is very important. And right here in the last box I have the timing belt kit made by Continental for this kind of vehicle. Alright everybody, so with all of these things being said, it's time for me to go ahead and show you all how to replace the timing belt kit on this kind of vehicle. The first thing which you'll have to do is to go underneath the vehicle, and you'll have to remove one hose to remove all the coolant from the system. On this vehicle, and especially on Renault and Nissan, the coolant color should be very green, but as you can see right here, the coolant is almost transparent, is not green at all, and I think that the owner tried to dilute it with too much water, or maybe he installed too much water into the system, and this is why the coolant is not green anymore. But right now, this is not important because I'm going to replace it anyway with brand new coolant. I'm going to remove all the coolant from the system, and the hose which you'll have to remove all the coolant from the system, it's this one from right here, between the radiators and between the oil pan. You will find this metal clip right here. You'll have to push it and you'll have to remove the hose to drain all the coolant from the system. After that, on those vehicles made by Renault, Nissan and Dacia, to put the engine into the top dead center, into the TDC, you'll have to go right here on the right side next to the gearbox side, and on this vehicle it's right underneath the starter of the vehicle. You'll find right here a special screw, a special bolt which you have to remove from the engine. This one right here with a star on it. And you'll have to remove it, and after that you have to put a special tool which you have to buy for this kind of engine, which will help you to put the crankshaft and the engine into the top dead center. Okay everybody, so right here as you can see, the hose is removed from the engine. A lot of coolant did already came out from the engine. You'll still have a little bit of coolant into the engine after you remove the water pump, and it will still leak a little bit, but you don't have to worry about it because it will only leak about 1 liter of coolant, or probably less than 1 liter. Right now, the right front wheel from the vehicle is removed. I placed it underneath the vehicle, and also I removed the dust protection of the wheel or the undercarriage and put it away in this position, because if you don't put it in this position, you'll have no access to the crankshaft pulley and also to the serpentine belt and the serpentine belt tensioner. After that, the next step which you'll have to do is to support the weight of the engine with the jack stand, and you'll have to lift it a little bit to release the tensioner from the engine mounting support, and you'll have to remove the engine mounting support from the vehicle. Now that the engine mounting support is removed from the vehicle, you still have to remove the mounting bracket for the engine mounting support. It's secured over the vehicle with 3 more screws which you have to disconnect, and after that you have to remove the plastic cover which is mounted over the timing belt. To remove the plastic cover, you have one clip in the left and one in the right which you have to pull out, and you'll have to lift it up from the vehicle. Moving on with the job, the next step which you'll have to do is to lift the engine up using the jet stand, and you'll have to disconnect the connector which is going into the camshaft position sensor. After that, you'll have to disconnect the mounting bracket which is still attached to the engine, and you'll have to remove the 5 bolts which are securing it mounted in place. Then I recommend all to remove and disconnect the serpentine belt and the serpentine belt tensioner, and also you'll have to disconnect and remove the alternator from the vehicle. Before trying to remove the alternator from this kind of vehicle, I recommend all to go first and remove the negative cable from the battery, just to be safe and not create any short circuit into the system. To completely remove the alternator from this kind of vehicle, you have to remove the 2 bolts which are securing it mounted in place from this position, and after that you have to use a breaker bar to pry it open from the mounting bracket. And then I recommend all to remove the fuel line which is going into the high fuel pressure pump, because you have to force it and squeeze it a little bit left and right, and you don't want to hit the fuel line and break it because it will create more problems. So just remove it, and after that you can pull the alternator out from the car. Alright everybody, the alternator is out from the vehicle, and now the next step which I'm going to do is to remove the serpentine belt tensioner and the serpentine belt from the vehicle. Alright everybody, right here I have the old serpentine belt which I just removed from the engine. I managed to remove it from underneath, and I recommend all to replace it if you are doing a kind of job like this one, because it's very difficult to reach the parts, and the job is a difficult one because all the parts are so close to each other and there is no room to work with, and the access is limited. So I recommend all to remove it and replace it right away. Moving on, the next step which I'm going to do is to remove the crankshaft pulley. I'm going to remove the center bolt using my impact gun, and the crankshaft pulley, it's sliding out very easy. Just pull it out and it will come out from space. After that, I recommend all to put the crankshaft bolt back into the position, because you have to turn the engine using the bolt. Moving on with the job, the next step which you have to do is to remove this plastic cover which is mounted over the timing belt, and it's secured with one plastic clip in the middle, and you have some connectors in the corners. Also, don't forget to disconnect the fuel lines because they're attached to the cover in some plastic clips. After that, the next step which you have to do is to remove the mounting bracket, which is still attached to the engine, and you have to remove the 5 bolts which are securing it mounted in place. Very good everybody, right now it's time for me to put the engine into the top dead center. I will have to remove this bolt from right here, which I told you at the beginning of this video. I'm going to remove this special bolt and I'm going to install the special tool into the hole just to block the crankshaft and put the engine into the top dead center. Okay everybody, right now the special tool which is helping me to put the engine into the top dead center is mounted in place, and from here I can turn the engine to the right very slightly until the engine will stop into the tool. As you can hear, the engine is making a sound when it's stopping into the tool, so this is meaning that the engine is into the top dead center, and the only thing which I have left to do is to put the other special tool into the camshaft hole, because we'll still have another hole into the camshaft which you'll have to block, and you'll have to align it with the hole and block it from not moving around. Right here in my hand, this is the other special tool which is helping me to put the camshaft into the TDC, and if the last time the timing belt was done correctly, the special tool should be sliding in very easy. In my case, it's not sliding in very easy. I'll have to adjust the timing belt just a little bit, and if you want to adjust the TDC, you'll have to undo a little bit the bolts which are securing the camshaft pulley mounted to the camshaft, and you'll have to rotate the camshaft using a 90mm socket until the slide pin will go very easy in and out. Right here, I hope my camera will focus. The hole is not perfectly aligned with the camshaft pulley, so this is meaning that it's not properly into the TDC, so I have to adjust it later with another tool. Right here at the bottom over the crankshaft, if you want to know if the crankshaft is placed perfectly over the top dead center, and on the TDC you have to check for this notch, for this hole over the crankshaft, and this hole from the top of the crankshaft should be normally placed at 12 o'clock. Also, the owner or the person who did the timing belt last time did some marks right here, and those marks, as you can see, are aligned up, so this meaning that the crankshaft and also the camshaft pulley are placed perfectly over the top dead center, and the engine is placed over the top dead center. Right now, the next step which I'm going to do is to put the camshaft pulley perfectly over the top dead center, because right now it's not placed perfectly. The locking tool is not going in and out very easy, so this is meaning that I have to adjust it a little bit. And to do so, you'll have to remove a little bit the 3 bolts which are securing the camshaft pulley mounted over the camshaft. And after that, you'll have to use the 90mm socket to turn the engine a little bit back and forth until the locking pin will slide in very easy. And right now, as you can see, the locking pin is going in and out very easy. This is how it should be moving. You'll only have to use 2 fingers to push it in and out. So this meaning that right now the locking tool and the camshaft pulley is perfectly aligned with the top dead center. Moving on, the next step which I'm going to do is to lift the engine up using the jack stand. I'm going to remove the timing belt, and also I'm going to remove the tensioner from the timing belt. To release the tension from the timing belt, you'll have to remove the bolt which is securing the tensioner mounted to the engine, and you'll have to rotate the tensioner anti-clockwise with an Allen key, and it will release the tension from the timing belt. Very good, everybody. So the timing belt is out from the engine. This is how the belt is looking, and in my case this belt is not in a very bad condition. It has a few cracks on it, but it's not too bad. The next step which you'll have to do is to remove the plastic cover which is mounted over the water pump, and you'll have 3 bolts which are securing this plastic cover mounted over the engine. You'll have to remove them, and after that you can just pull it out from the engine. Only after you remove this plastic cover you'll have access to the bolts and to the water pump itself. To remove this plastic cover or plastic bracket from the engine perfectly, you have to move it a little bit left and right, up and down, and it will create space for you to remove it from the engine. As you can see, this is how it's looking. Those holes are the location for the screws, which are securing it mounted in place, and after you remove it, you can just pull it out from the engine. After that, you'll have access to the water pump, and to remove the water pump from the engine, you'll have to remove all the bolts from around it, which are securing it mounted in place, and the bolts which are securing the water pump are some special bolts. You'll have to put some sealant over them, you'll have to put some lubricant over them just to prevent the water pump from leaking, because the bolts are directly going into the water pump and into the engine. And also into the engine where there is a lot of coolant, if you don't put some silicone or some special paste over the bolts, they will start leaking and you'll have leaking problems. So I recommend you all, after you install the water pump back over the engine, the new water pump I mean, you'll have to put some silicone over the bolts just to prevent them from leaking or to prevent the water pump from leaking in the future. To perfectly align and put the high fuel pressure pump into the top dead center, you'll have to check for this mark, and you'll have to align this mark with the line from the brand new timing belt. After that, you'll have to put the timing belt over the camshaft, and you'll have to align the mark from the timing belt with the mark from the camshaft pulley. And then you'll have to put it down over the crankshaft. And from here, I'm going to remove the old water pump from the engine, and I recommend all to put something underneath the engine to catch the coolant, which will still come out from the engine. And after that, I'm going to replace it with a brand new one. Okay everybody, so after I removed all the bolts which are securing the water pump mounted to the engine, as you can see, the coolant starts leaking out from the hole on which the bolts are securing the water pump. This is why I told you all that you'll have to put some silicone over the new bolts, or if you are using the old bolts, you'll have to put silicone over them just to prevent the coolant start leaking out from the engine. In my case, I'm going to reuse the old ones. I'm going to clean the old bolts very good, or the old screws, and then I'm going to install them back over the engine with the brand new water pump. Right here, as you can see, the screws, the bolts, already have some solidified silicone over them, but in my case I'm going to clean them and I'm going to install brand new silicone over them, and then I'm going to install them back over the vehicle. After you finish removing the old water pump from the engine, you have to clean the engine and the area on this side very good. I recommend you to use some brake cleaner and some very fine sandpaper and clean the area on which the new water pump will sit over the engine, just to be safe and just to know exactly that the job is done properly and you'll have no leaks in the future. Very good everybody, from this moment the engine is prepared for the installation of the new parts. Right here, the pulley from the camshaft, it's moving freely, it's moving back and forth, so this is a very good sign, and I recommend all to let it stay into the middle of the hole, just to have enough space to secure it and to have enough space to tension it with the brand new tensioner. Right here I have the new gasket for the water pump, which I'm going to install it back over the engine. This is the metal gasket, and the one which I removed from the engine was a rubber gasket. you have to put it like this, and you don't have to put any silicone over it because there is no need to. You'll only have to put it like this and secure it with the screw, and you'll have to tie it to the engine. Also, right here, I cleaned all the area on which the water pump will sit over the engine. Everything is like new, everything is looking great, and from here I will install all the parts back in reverse over the engine. Right here, as you can see, the new water pump is installed back over the engine. You'll have to tighten all the bolts to spec, and then you can go ahead and install the plastic bracket which is mounted over it, and after that you can install back the timing belt and the tensioner from the timing belt. Okay everybody, it's time for me to install back the brand new timing belt, and if you want to install it correctly over the engine, you have to put the lines which are close to each other down at the crankshaft, and you have two more lines at the top, and you'll have to count around 18 teeth between them. And for example, one line should be going over the pulley from the camshaft pulley, and the other line should be going over the mark which is situated over the pulley from the high fuel pressure pump. From here, just follow what I'm doing. In my case, I'm going to use this marker to point out the marks which are over the pulleys and over the belt, just to be a little bit easier for you to see exactly what I'm going to do right here. So as you can see, you'll have to put the lines which are situated over the new timing belt, and you'll have to put them over the marks from the pulleys. Right now I will go at the bottom and I'm going to secure it over the crankshaft, because also on the crankshaft you'll have two lines which you'll have to align, and I will show you in a second where you'll have to align them. And after you secure it at the bottom over the crankshaft, you can go up over the water pump and you have to align them over the pulley from the top. One more thing which I recommend you all to do if you want to make your job a little bit easier is to use some pliers like I have right here, because this kind of pliers will secure the belt over the pulleys until you are going to secure the belt over the tensioner. Alright everybody, so as you can see, the belt is perfectly mounted back over the engine. It's not tensioned yet, but is mounted back over the engine in the exact perfect way. Right here, as you can see, the mark from the timing belt, it's mounted over the mark from the high fuel pressure pump pulley. And also right here, the mark from the timing belt, it's mounted over the mark from the camshaft pulley. Also, if you go right here over the tensioner is fitted perfectly in the hole. It's secured, and the only thing which you have to do is to tension the belt. Right now I'm going to show you all how the belt is secured over the crankshaft. And right here over the crankshaft you'll still have two more lines which you have to align and secure. And right here at the bottom, the line from the timing belt should be perfectly aligned with the mark from the crankshaft. And as you can see, it's perfectly aligned. I have nothing to worry about right here. And also right here a little bit in the right side at 3 o'clock, you'll have another line which should be normally aligned with the hole from the crankshaft. And both of them are perfectly aligned over the crankshaft and also over the camshaft and over the high fuel pressure pump. And from here, the next step which I'm going to do is to put tension over the tensioner and tighten it a little bit. Don't tighten it to spec yet, because you'll have first to tighten everything until it's snug, and then you'll have to rotate the engine a few times. To correctly tension the new timing belt over the engine, you have to take an Allen key and put it into the tensioner, and you'll have to rotate it anti-clockwise until the arrow from the tensioner will be perfectly aligned in the middle of the arrows from the tensioner. So you'll have to put it in the middle, and you'll have to hold it there until you are going to secure the bolt with the tool. After you finish tensioning the timing belt, you'll have to turn the engine at least 3 or 4 times. You'll have to remove the locking pin from the crankshaft, and you'll have to remove the locking pin from the camshaft pulley, and you have to turn the engine 3 or 4 times at least. And after that, you have to install back the locking pins for the crankshaft and for the camshaft. And if all the locking pins are going back in very easy, this is meaning that the job is done properly. If the locking pin from the camshaft is not going in very easy, you'll have to remove the 3 bolts a little bit, you'll have to undo them, and you'll have to pull again or push the camshaft a little bit with the 90mm socket until you adjust it at the top dead center perfectly, and then you can tighten everything back to spec like it was from the factory. Alright everybody, so right here, as you can see, I still have plenty of room to move the camshaft pulley left or right. So this is a very good sign. This is meaning that the tension was done properly and the belt is tensioned properly. Because if you put it all the way to the left or all the way to the right and tighten it, it will not be tensioned correctly by the tensioner and the belt will not be secured like it's supposed to be secured. So I recommend also to put it in the middle like I told you earlier, and then you have to tension the belt. Right now I'm only going to tighten the bolts a little bit to secure them in place, and after I'm going to turn the engine a few times, and if everything is good, I'm going to tighten them to spec. Okay everybody, the engine is placed back into the top dead center, the crankshaft is locked, also the camshaft pulley is locked, the slide pin, as you can see, or the locking tool, is going in and out very easy, so this is a very good sign. And from here the only thing which you have to do is to tighten all the bolts to spec and install all the parts back over the engine and start the engine. From this moment, the marks from the timing belt and the marks from the pulleys will never align again. They are only staying aligned if you put them in one place and if you don't turn the engine, but after you turn the engine at least one time, they will never be again in the line. So don't worry, this is the perfect thing. It has nothing to do with how you install the parts or how you don't install the parts. From here, I will go ahead, I will tighten everything to spec, and I'm going to mount everything back together over the engine, and then I'm going to start the vehicle. Right now, the only thing which I have to do before starting the engine is to install back the crankshaft pulley. I'm going to put it in place and then I'm going to start the engine. And as you can see, the engine is running great, everything is working perfectly. From here, the only thing which I have to do is to install all the parts back over the engine. I will install the alternator, the safety cylinder, the new tensioner for the safety cylinder, and all the other parts from the engine, and the job will be done. Also, don't forget to put brand new coolant into the system and boot the system, and you'll be good to go. Very good everybody, the job is done, everything is installed back over the vehicle, all the parts are brand new, all the parts are fitted and tighted to spec. Thank you for watching. This is how to do a complete timing belt on any 1.5 Dci or 1.9 Dci. If you like the video and found it informative, please leave a like and a comment down below. See you next time.